Have you ever noticed that certain family members drain your energy or bring more stress than joy? As you age, protecting your peace becomes more important than ever. Reaching your 60s and beyond should be about enjoying life, cherishing meaningful relationships, and focusing on your well-being. But let's be honest, not all family members bring joy. Some can be emotionally draining, manipulative, or even outright toxic. And at this stage in life, you don't have time for unnecessary negativity. That's why today, we're going to talk about 6 types of relatives you might need to keep your distance from, especially number 5. That one might truly shock you. So, stick around, because you might just recognize some of these personalities in your own family. And if you do, let me know in the comments. Which one stood out the most to you? Now, let's dive in. Section 1. The Chronic Complainer. We all know that one relative who always finds something to grumble about. No matter how good life is, they focus on the negatives. The weather is always too hot or too cold, the government is a mess, the neighbors are too loud, and their health is never quite right. Yet, they do nothing to improve it. These chronic complainers seem to have a never-ending list of things that are wrong, and they expect you to be their sounding board. But here's the problem. Negativity is contagious. When you constantly hear someone complain, it starts to affect your own mood, even if you don't realize it. Studies show that surrounding yourself with negativity can increase stress, anxiety, and even impact your physical health. At this stage in life, your peace of mind should be a priority, and entertaining a chronic complainer can drain you emotionally. The truth is, some people don't want solutions. They just want an audience for their misery. Take the story of Robert, a 68-year-old retiree who finally moved to a peaceful small town by the beach, a dream he had worked for his entire life. He imagined spending his mornings walking by the shore, enjoying the fresh air, and finally relaxing. But every day, his older sister calls him, not to check in or share good news, but to complain. If it's not her back pain, it's the ungrateful younger generation. If it's not that, it's the terrible state of the world. At first, Robert tried to be supportive, but over time he realized these calls were making him anxious and exhausted. They were robbing him of the peace he had worked so hard to achieve. So, what did Robert do? He set firm boundaries. He limited how often he answered her calls and steered conversations toward positive topics. If she started complaining, he would say, "Mentor, I understand, but let's talk about something good today." Over time, she either adjusted or stopped calling as much. The result? Robert's stress levels dropped, and he was finally able to enjoy the peaceful life he deserved. The lesson here is simple. You don't have to cut people off completely, but you do need to protect your own well-being. If someone's negativity is dragging you down, it's okay to step back. Life after 60 should be about joy, relaxation, and meaningful connections, not endless complaints that serve no purpose. Section 2. The Financial Leech. There's always that one relative who treats you like their personal bank. No matter how many times they just need a little help, the cycle never ends. They ask for money with promises to pay it back, but somehow that day never comes. It could be a sibling, a cousin, or even an adult child. Someone who always has an excuse, but never takes responsibility for their own financial situation. The biggest problem with financial leeches is that they don't respect boundaries. They see your generosity as an open invitation, and over time their requests become bigger and more frequent. If you're retired or planning for retirement, this can be dangerous. Your money should be working for you, for your health care, your hobbies, and your well-being. But constantly bailing out others can leave you stressed, struggling, and even financially unstable in your later years. Take George, a 72-year-old retiree, for example. He had always been generous with his nephew Michael, who often needed a little extra cash. It started with small amounts, $50 here, $100 there. But over time, Michael began asking for bigger sums. First, it was help with rent, then car payments, then a loan for a business idea that never took off. George, being a kind-hearted uncle, kept giving, hoping Michael would eventually get on his feet. But the truth was, Michael had no intention of paying him back. He saw George as a safety net. Eventually, George realized he was putting his own future at risk. Enough was enough. He had to set boundaries, even if it meant upsetting his nephew. The next time Michael asked for money, George firmly said, "I love you, but I can't keep doing this. I've worked hard for my retirement, and I need to focus on my own stability." Michael wasn't happy, but George felt a huge weight lifted off his shoulders. No more guilt, no more financial stress. The lesson? Being generous is wonderful, but not at the cost of your own security. If a family member constantly asks for money and never repays it, it's time to say no. You worked hard for your retirement. Don't let someone else's bad choices ruin it. Set boundaries, stand firm, and remember, you are not a bank. Section 3. The Drama Starter. Some relatives just can't live without chaos. They thrive on gossip, twist words, and create unnecessary conflicts between family members. These drama starters always have a new story, a new complaint, or a new reason to pit one person against another. Whether it's spreading false rumors, exaggerating small issues, or stirring up old family wounds, they seem to enjoy watching the drama unfold, as long as they aren't the target. But here's the truth. Life after 60 should be about peace, not petty arguments. The older you get, the more you realize how valuable your time is. Why waste it on unnecessary drama? Engaging with a drama starter means constant stress, ruined family gatherings, and emotional exhaustion. Instead of enjoying meaningful connections with loved ones, you're always on edge, waiting for the next explosion. That's not how anyone should live. Take Margaret, a 70-year-old grandmother who loved hosting family dinners. For years, she welcomed everyone with open arms, until she realized her niece, Sarah, was turning every gathering into a battlefield. Sarah had a habit of whispering gossip, twisting stories, and making people feel uneasy around each other. One Thanksgiving, she told Margaret's son that his cousin had been talking behind his back. The result? A massive argument that ruined the evening and left family members upset with each other for months. And while everyone else was left feeling miserable, Sarah sat back and enjoyed the chaos she created. Eventually, Margaret had enough. She realized that no matter how much she loved Sarah, her presence brought nothing but negativity. So, she made a tough but necessary choice. She stopped inviting her to family events. She didn't make a big announcement or stir up more drama. She simply prioritized peace over conflict. And you know what happened? Family gatherings became joyful again. People felt comfortable, conversations were warm, and the tension that once filled the room was gone. The lesson? You don't have to tolerate toxic behavior just because someone is family. If a relative constantly stirs up drama, you have every right to distance yourself for the sake of your own happiness. Life is too short to be caught up in unnecessary conflicts. Choose peace, set boundaries, and surround yourself with people who bring you joy, not stress. Section 4. The Manipulative Relative. Some relatives don't ask for things directly. They guilt you into it. They use emotional blackmail, passive-aggressive comments, or even play the victim to get their way. They might say things like, "After all I've done for you, you won't help me," or "I guess I just don't matter to you anymore." Instead of respecting your choices, they twist your emotions, making you feel like the bad guy for saying no. The biggest problem with manipulative relatives is that they don't care about your well-being, only their own needs. They know exactly which buttons to push and how to make you feel obligated to do things that aren't in your best interest. Whether it's taking on responsibilities you don't want, lending money you can't afford to lose, or sacrificing your personal time, these relatives always make you feel like you owe them something. And, over time, this can drain you both emotionally and physically. Take Thomas, a 73-year-old grandfather, for example. After decades of hard work, he finally retired, looking forward to enjoying his golden years, traveling, gardening, and spending time with friends. But his daughter had other plans. She started asking him to babysit her kids, not occasionally, but full-time. At first, Thomas agreed, wanting to help, but soon he found himself exhausted and overwhelmed, spending his days chasing after toddlers instead of enjoying his well-earned rest. Any time he tried to set boundaries, his daughter would guilt-trip him, saying, "Don't you love your grandchildren? You're the only one I can count on." Eventually, Thomas reached a breaking point. He realized that while he loved his grandkids, his retirement wasn't meant to be free daycare. So, he had a difficult conversation with his daughter. He explained that while he was happy to help occasionally, he could no longer be a full-time babysitter. She wasn't happy at first, but Thomas stood firm. And you know what happened? His daughter found another solution, because she had to. Meanwhile, Thomas got his life back. The lesson here? You are not responsible for fixing everyone else's problems, especially at the cost of your own happiness. If a relative constantly guilts you into things you don't want to do, it's time to set clear boundaries. You've spent your whole life taking care of others. Now it's time to take care of yourself. Section 5. The jealous and competitive one. Shocking. Believe it or not, some relatives don't want to see you happy. They smile to your face but secretly resent your success, your peace, or even just the fact that you're enjoying retirement. They might downplay your achievements, make passive-aggressive comments, or constantly try to one-up you in conversations. The moment you mention something good in your life, they find a way to compare or make you feel guilty for it. The problem with jealous and competitive relatives is that their negativity can start to affect you. Instead of celebrating your happiness, you'll find yourself dreading sharing good news because you know they'll have a dismissive or snide remark ready. They won't say, "I'm happy for you." Instead, they'll say things like, "Must be nice to have so much free time," or "I wish I could afford that, but some of us still have responsibilities." Their words are coated with bitterness, and over time this kind of energy can drain the joy from your own life. Take Robert, a 68-year-old retiree, for example. After working hard his whole life, he finally had the chance to travel, pick up new hobbies, and enjoy his days without stress. But every time he shared his excitement with his cousin, Mark, the response was always the same: sarcastic comments about how easy Robert had it. "Not everyone gets to live like you, Robert," Mark would say, rolling his eyes. At first, Robert brushed it off, thinking Mark was just having a bad day, but then he realized Mark wasn't happy for him at all. He was jealous, and instead of being supportive, he wanted to make Robert feel guilty for enjoying his life. One day, Robert decided enough was enough. He stopped engaging in the toxic competition. He no longer felt the need to explain or downplay his happiness just to make Mark feel better. And when he distanced himself, something amazing happened. He felt lighter. Without the negativity, he could finally fully enjoy his well-earned retirement without feeling bad for it. The lesson? You don't have to shrink your happiness to make someone else feel comfortable. If a relative is constantly jealous, dismissive, or competitive, it's not your job to fix their insecurities. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your success, not those who secretly resent it. Life is too short to spend time with people who can't be happy for you. Section 6. The disrespectful and entitled younger relative. One of the most heartbreaking things about aging is realizing that some younger relatives only see you as a resource, not as a person. They don't call to check on you, they don't ask how you're doing, and they don't appreciate your wisdom. But the moment they need something, whether it's money, a favor, or a place to stay, they suddenly remember you exist. And once they get what they want, they disappear again until the next time they need something. The problem with these entitled younger relatives is that they don't value the time, effort, or sacrifices you've made in life. They expect handouts without gratitude, demand favors without consideration, and show little to no respect for the people who came before them. Instead of seeing you as a source of wisdom and guidance, they see you as a walking ATM or a problem solver for their own bad decisions. And the worst part? If you ever say no, they act offended, like you somehow owe them. Take Margaret, a 72-year-old grandmother, for example. She adored her grandkids and always made an effort to be present in their lives. But as they grew older, she noticed something upsetting. They only visited when they needed money. If they wanted a new phone, a loan for rent, or even just some extra cash for a night out, they would suddenly act warm and affectionate. But if Margaret called just to chat or invited them over for dinner, excuses. They were too busy, too tired, or simply didn't respond. At first, Margaret told herself that maybe it was just the way things were with the younger generation. But one day, she decided to test it. She stopped offering money and waited to see if her grandkids would still visit. Weeks passed, then months. Not a single one reached out. That's when Margaret finally saw the truth. She was only valued when she was giving something. So, she made a decision. No more handouts, no more one-sided relationships. Instead, she focused on the people who truly cared about her, friends, supportive family members, and her own happiness. The lesson? Respect should go both ways. Just because someone is family doesn't mean they have the right to take advantage of you. If a younger relative doesn't value your presence unless they need something, it's time to set boundaries. You deserve to be loved and appreciated, not used. Conclusion: as you grow older, your peace of mind becomes more valuable than ever. Not every relative deserves access to your time, energy, or kindness. Some bring joy, wisdom, and love into your life, while others drain you, manipulate you, or only show up when they need something. The key is knowing who to keep close and who to love from a distance. Now, I want to hear from you. If you recognize at least one of these relatives in your own family, comment 9 below. But if you're lucky enough to have none of these toxic relatives, comment 0, because that means you're truly blessed. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this. Take care, protect your peace, and I'll see you in the next one.